Fun. That's the harmonica sound on this keyboard, which I can change. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Well, today is going to be a little bit different to the normal days. I tell you what, we're gonna just have a look at. I've basically got not enough time. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to have a look at all the albums, or I'm going to all the albums that I listened to this year. I'm going to have a look at every single one in a list that I made on Excel, on LibreOffice Calc. Is actually true what it is. Is it actually called Calc in LibreOffice, or is it? I can't remember. It doesn't say for some reason. LibreOffice. Yeah, LibreOffice Calc. Following on from good old OpenOffice. I was convinced to use LibreOffice and I don't actually like it more, and I'm sad. But it seems like LibreOffice is getting updated, whereas OpenOffice isn't, and I did occasionally lose all my work. For instance, this spreadsheet that I'm going to show, this is at least, because I've lost it several times and had to go back to previous versions, and so there are some albums from within the last 5-7 years or so, I don't know, which I may well have forgotten that I listened to and not put on here. But yeah, we're going to go through this and I'm going to talk about which ones I really liked and which ones I didn't, and try and give some explanation for why. It's a more subjective approach than we normally go for. Okay, well, we've got Jim Geddes' Wasteland. Now, this is a really good one. It's really good, and I haven't heard any buzz about it at all, which is a real sad time, because it's so cool. It's so powerful. I've only covered one track from it in a kind of mixture video, and that was Schiefenfeld. And gosh, it's like if you took Sam Fender and you made him slightly more haggard and you put him doing proper folk music, but doing it in a more unique way, more rock centric way, I suppose. It has some callback to sort of 60s folk rock in the form of, say, Fairport Convention, but it doesn't have the sort of whimsical eccentricities of that. It is more of a emotional onslaught for one. It's really interesting. There's very little music like it. Oh no, I've disconnected. Oh, apparently I've reconnected. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened there, but yeah, it's just a really fantastic piece of music. At some point in the future, but I don't have time now. then we have Lotus by Little Simz, which I really think is great too, and again I might cover soon. Lotus feels to me like strangely, the most cohesive artwork that Little Simz has made. And while I've liked plenty of Little Simz in the past, Grey Area is really good. I'm not as hot on Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, which really tries to be this really strong, big, artistic, bold statement, but somehow for me just grates in a way that I don't think is as good. I think Lotus doesn't really have that. Now Lotus does have some tracks like Young that stick out and are very different to the rest of the album, but there's this kind of heart to the album that I think is more cohesive, guides every track. Maybe just texturally, the instruments used don't differ massively through the track listing, I believe. Anyway, I think it's great. I think it's really good. At the moment, it's my favourite Little Simz album, but we'll see if that continues. Billy Wood's album we've talked about enough. I've got a 3-part thing of it, so go and have a look at that if you like. What else have we got? This Abel Selalkoe album, right? Presumably the right pronunciation. Selalkoe. I don't know. Abel. Could be Abel, I suppose, but Abel. Anyway. He's a really cool cellist. He's very interesting in his approach to programming, like a set list of songs from for an album by this guy. It might include some of his original compositions. It might include some classics, like there's Bach on this album. But it's called Hymns of Bantu because it has a lot of connection to his ancestry in the, let's say, Bantu tribe. I'm just going to have a look up of Bantu to check if it is a specific tribe. Ethno-linguistic. Okay, it's an ethno-linguistic group. 400 distinct native African ethnic groups who speak Bantu languages. Right, there you go. So not a tribe. In fact, 350 million people in Africa. And so what he's bringing in his original compositions is this incredibly exciting sort of classical adjacent music that is full of energy. He's always playing the cello, so we're not deviating that much from what's going on, except in style, because really the Bach pieces are so sort of, let's say refined, though that's not really what I mean, and they follow their trajectory as exactly as you would expect, but his original pieces feel much more seat of the pants. You don't know what's coming next. It doesn't seem to follow as logical a trajectory as those other pieces by Bach and Murray. So we get this really interesting program which vacillates, shall we say. Again, I've disconnected. Unbelievable. I'm just not going to care about it. I guess I just have a bad connection at the moment. Hopefully it's still recording. They go between this really refined classical music that is a little stale, shall we say, at least to my tastes, and this very, very exciting, full-bodied, new form of music. It's wonderful stuff, really worth a listen. He also released a live album this year that is pretty good too, similar kind of thing. Imperial Triumphant's Gold Star. I did cover it and received some level of infraction strike on twitch because the cover is unacceptable. But it's really good. It's again, I sort of feel the most cohesive album by Imperial Triumphant. I think probably I prefer Alphaville because I think Alphaville has more textural interest on it, but Gold Star feels very strong. It goes a bit crazy at times, and for instance, which track is it? Let's have a look. In fact, I guess I can find it on here, can't I? Gold Star. By the way, I'm not necessarily covering these in the order that I think they are. Like, I don't think Jim Geddy's necessarily the best, although he's definitely a contender. Yeah, so oh wow, why does it not say like it does on Spotify? One of these tracks has who do we have? Dave Lombardo as a featured drum artist. We also have Thomas Harker, yeah, as a speaker. Is he normally? Hang on. What am I thinking? Yeah, no. So extra people on that song. Dave Lombardo and plays at the same time as Kenny Grohowski, and so we get this crazy mix of two different virtuoso drummers doing things at the same time, and it's a very, very unusual texture for this kind of music. This let's call it black metal for want of a better term, normally has really specific sounds from the guitars, sounds from the drums, and while the drums are more free in general, it's not normally this free to which you have two drummers at the same time. Anyway, really fun. Loads of crazy stuff on it. Not for the faint of heart. Worth a go though. Covered this. It's a really interesting mix. It feels very cohesive again. Like there's a strong artistic statement that is somewhere between this new post-punk kind of music and sort of traditional folk music. So in a similar place to the Jim Geddy album, but I think probably more accessible, maybe arguably slightly more musically interesting. I don't get quite the emotional heft that I get from the Jim Geddy one, but still, yeah, really worth a go. This Ichiko Aoba album so far is my favorite Ichiko Aoba album, though while I say that, I've only listened to QP once and I've only listened to O once, and I really liked both of them, so I will have to go back to those at some point. But this one feels more texturally adventurous, especially on, well, specific tracks, including the initial track is it called Coloratura? Let's just have a look at that. I don't need to keep doing this, I think. Let's just, yeah. Of things going on, and these occasionally occur elsewhere in the album as well, but then you have really, really soft, beautiful ones like Aurora, which is, yeah, really wonderful, interesting piece of music. Pieces like that really are skirting on the edge of being pop music in this grand, massive pop music category versus classical music in this other category, and maybe jazz in this other one, and let's say folk in the other one. Really, this is right on the border of classical and pop, because the guitar playing is distinctly classical, the harmonies used are distinctly classical as well, and the progression and the structure of everything feels very classical. Nonetheless, with the delivery of the voice, the context of it being on an album like this. All these things feed into it being pop, so it has this, or well, maybe there's a foot in folk as well, being a singer-songwriter, but yeah, and the harmony arguably is slightly jazz as well. So we've got all these different things in one particular artist, and she is just luminescent. She's just fantastic. She's got so much going on. Now, my main discovery this year is Balake Sissoko, who is amazing, kora player, and for those who aren't initiated into the kora fan base, kora is basically like a harp, but it sort of looks like bagpipes, but it's more like a guitar. I'm tempted to leave it there. I'm just going to leave it there. But this is a short 5-track album with loads of exciting instrumental compositions. They're really good. They're characterful. They have a lot of virtuosic, impressive playing in them, and they also have this sort of lightness, which is not actually very common for virtuosic instrumental music, but I think it really comes across here. Other people who are good at that, really, I would say the best is Bela Fleck. So if you like Bela Fleck, I'm sure you will like this Balake Sissoko album. This Maruja album, is it Maruja or is it Maruja? Someone clear that up for me, please. But this is great. This is a super powerful album. Like, what sort of distinguishes it in a realm, this new post-punk realm that everyone bloody loves, that has a lot of really strong, powerful music in it, like emotionally dense and heavy music. What really distinguishes this one is that it feels sad in a way, like very, very despairing in a way that a lot of the other things don't. You could liken it in that respect to maybe Sprain's last album, which I have the name of which I can't remember, but let's just search Sprain because it's the only one. The Llama's Effigy, yeah, which came out in 2023. Incidentally, I also listened to the Shearling album this year, which is the continuation of Sprain as I understand it in a lot of ways. I didn't like it that much. It's really only one track, then it's an hour long, and it was a little bit try hard for me. But whereas Sprain have this like overwhelming depression, to which it becomes at which point, I hate saying to which, why have I said that twice today? At which point it becomes sort of just bleakly insane, bleak and almost dadaistic, surreally depressed. This Maruja album really feels grounded in reality and true anger and sadness at the things that are going on around, and that is, I think, its main power, as well as the incredible breath control that their saxophonist has, just doing ridiculously long phrases of just really fast notes over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And also, I think their singer has come on a long way since Knockin' Area, which I really liked too. And also Tina Nog came out this year, but I can't really remember Tina Nog. I enjoyed it at the time, but I can't remember anything from it. Whereas Paint Power has really stuck with me and is great. This Dodie album I've covered, and it's good, and it is not really a big departure for Dodie, but I feel maybe there are some larger, more impactful, like powerful sections. So not just relying on the really quiet, very soft and very dry acoustic that Dodie might normally do. And yeah, so I would really encourage you to go for that. Slightly softer version of clipping on this album. than the previous two, slightly more groovy. I think it's really good. What else could I say? I think the later tracks, like, is it Welcome Home, Welcome Home Soldier? Let's just get it up. Welcome Home Warrior, yeah, I think is really lovely, and Ask What Happened after that as well. They're really good. Yeah, so some tracks I'm not as fond of, like Simple Death. Some really strange sounds being put together. I think By Bit Panic. I'm not entirely sure what clipping has done there, because it's a very sparse track. It's strange that there would be another, like a collaborator on that track. It really feels like it should have been made by just one person, but there we are. Yeah, lots of really good stuff on it, even if it's not quite as dense or as well packed as the previous two albums, which are fantastic. If you don't know them, Visions of Bodies Being Burned, really amazing, and there existed an Addiction to Blood, really both of them I can vouch for. Yeah, they're super powerful, super unusual. Speaking of super unusual, Dose One, or Dosioni, and Steel Tip Dove, or Steel Tipped Dove. Both of these people contributed a fantastically unique album on All Portrait No Chorus. Steel Tip Dove seemingly is getting to become my most the producer who I'm most anticipating being fantastic continued on into the future. I haven't been familiar with them before this year, but this album and their work on the Billy Woods album too, really great, really unusual stuff. The production is more unusual than what Dose One is doing, but Dose One speaks in a weird voice. We also have another weird voiced dude on this album, which is Bruiser Wolf, and they together have a very unusual chemistry as well. Yeah, it's really cool. I've covered it a tiny bit again on the one that I covered a bit of Jim Geddy on. Really worth a listen. Very special. I think some people might find it a little emotionally closed off, but if you're just there for a listening experience, it's really great. Really great. So this Park Ji-ha album is next, and this is the first one where I'm not entirely sold. I did really enjoy it the first time, and then the subsequent times I have enjoyed it less. That said, it is kind of just, it's Park Ji-ha is a film composer, probably amongst other things, and so this is some quite atmospheric music, with a foot in the ambient category. I think it does really well in what it does, but whether you're in the mood for that or not is probably dependent on you and what mood you're in. I don't think it's necessarily gonna be for everybody, even everybody who's into ambient music, because I think there's a slight there's more composition there than there would normally be in an ambient work, I think, and that I quite like that, but I can imagine that riling some. This Heartworms album is really good, and part of me thinks that it shouldn't be. I think that there's a low in comparison to what we've talked about so far today. It is lower art, and I don't mean this as a pejorative, but it basically fits more into the pop category more successfully than any of the other things we've got here. That said, there are some weird things on this album. The overwhelming feeling from the album is one of gothic intoxication. It's very oppressive and dark, but in a gothic way, so in a slightly more drama rather than the overwhelming weight of that Sprain album that I was talking about, or the real true sadness of the Maruja album. So it doesn't feel as emotionally connected, but it's definitely going for deep heavy emotions. And yeah, that lack of connection is probably due to a glitzier production than is on the other albums too. But yeah, really still very, very fun, very exciting, and with a lot of good performances on as well. So Heartworms is just one woman, and I can't remember her name, and I'm not going to look it up, but she has a real good set of lungs on her, and as the album gets later on, she develops that, or at least she reveals more of what she's capable of, and I think that's really cool. I'm always a sucker for a great singer. I think they're underrated actually at the moment. Maya Friedman, Goodbye Long Winter Shadow. This is a lush ass album. There's so many beautiful textures on this album, full of strings. The compositions are relatively unassuming. It's not really in your face, but it reminds me of Songs for Our Daughter by Laura Marling. There's not as much guitar. There's probably a little bit of guitar, but the overall sort of slight throwback to the 70s feel is strong with this one, but in a really satisfying way that I would say goes over the boundary of its throwback nature. It really is something different, and that's definitely worth a go. Leah Maria Fries, Cleo. I'm still getting to grips with this one, but it seems great. It's on an interesting label with in fact, it's probably worth looking up whether Leah Maria Fries is from Africa, because I think a lot of her label mates are, and that struck me as surprising. No, she's from Switzerland, so that's weird. And yeah, anyway, it's cool. It has its toes in a lot of different musical camps, like a lot of these things that I'm talking about here, because that's kind of what I like in music. I would encourage you, if you like singer-songwriters, if you like unusual approaches, to music, it's definitely going to give you that. Although that said, it's not it's not like 20-minute compositions. It's not really pushing the boundaries of music, but it is doing sort of familiar music styles in a quite weird way, and that goes also for Me Lost Me, probably again slightly more towards the classical side here, but this is another female singer-songwriter who is making music that is pushing compositional boundaries, let's say. This one's slightly also more towards the folk side, whereas Leah Marie Fries probably has a bit more soul and R&B in there. That said, that sort of paints the wrong impression of what's going on that album. But both similar approaches to music in different camps. Lucy Gooch, arguably also the same, but she's playing much more with ambient soundscape kind of things. It's a really fun album. Again, I need to listen to it a bit more, but the space that it encapsulates is really, really desirable and big and interesting and textured and layered. Yeah, really good stuff. We've had a run actually of female singer-songwriters, 5 of them. I don't know if Pakji has a woman. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, does it? But there we go. We've got a lot of representation there, at least from the white women. Let's see if we can get. Well, we've got Little Sims at the top, haven't we? So I don't know. And Ichiko Aoba. So let's worry less about that, and let's just try and be honest about how I feel about things, being the white man that I am. Caroline too. Caroline. What can we say about Caroline? I saw Caroline live and I thought it was really exciting, but the people I was with said that they used to do similar things when they were at college. And that really damned it. I think Caroline are great. They're really nice as well. But the power of their first album is in the lack of expectation. And that sort of continues into this new album, but because we've got that artifact, that initial album to look back on, this one doesn't quite hit as hard. It's still very unique music with absolutely unconventional approaches to loads of musical features like tempo, basic things like tempo and structure and texture. These things are approached in an entirely unique way by the band Caroline, and that is amazing. They stand in an arc, or at least they did when I saw them. They stand in an arc on stage so that everyone's as visible as everyone else. It is special. It is special, but this one I was not as touched by as the previous one. That said, that previous one really, really great. Go and have a listen to that. Tamino, Every Dawn's a Mountain. This one I think has also sort of flown under the radar this year, but what's great about this is the detail that the compositions have. They're quite soulful and soft most of the time, but they have bristling power underneath that. I probably won't listen to a large amount of it going on, but when it does come up, it will be a wonderful change. The problem with listening to so many albums is you end up with a huge list of good albums, and it doesn't quite cross over into the most exciting part of that. Similarly, Car Seat Headrest, The Scholars. Now this is a weird one because Car Seat Headrest has a huge amount of albums I've not listened to. I've not gone back even to Twin Fantasy, which I know a lot of people think is fantastic, and it has been remastered since I've been listening to music more generally. But I'm very, very fond of Teens of Denial. Really a really big fan of that album. Not so much of Making a Door Less Open. And I did actually like the Commit Yourself Completely live album as well. I thought that was very good, very sort of good recordings. Really feels powerful, that album, in a slightly different way to the studio recordings. The Scholars, I think, has some really good stuff on and has some not so good stuff, and it's dense and difficult to tease apart. At some point, maybe if I do a deep dive into Car Seat Headrest, I will really get to grips with this one, but it's not strong enough on the surface for me to bother going deeper with it at the moment. Just don't have the time. This new Def album, loads of people really love this new Def album. I'm lukewarm on it. I think it's decent, but I think other people seem to like a different thing about Def Heaven than I do, because my favourite Def Heaven album is the other one. What's it called? Why have I forgotten? The one with Brought to the Water on and Luna. New Bermuda, yeah. I really like New Bermuda. Oh, but it looks like that has got some award. Pitchfork Best New Music. Well, there you go. I really like New Bermuda. I think it's great. I hated Infinite Granite. Didn't we all hate Infinite Granite? Why did they just make a really boring, basically rock album? They have really specific style that they went away from with disastrous results. I thought it was so dull. Whatever. It's not important. We're talking about Lonely People with Power. well, back to form, isn't it? Certainly, there are some good things on that album, the names of which are escaping me. Doberman and Magnolia are really strong. And I think Winona I have at least liked, but I can't remember exactly how it goes from that. But has the excitement worn off maybe for Deafheaven and the specific ambient or atmospheric black metal sound? I don't know. It's good. It just hasn't tickled me that way. And neither, annoyingly, has this Backwash album. Could it be Backswash? I don't know. I should watch more interviews, I suppose. But anyway, this album is more low-key than the previous ones, and that has meant that it's not as interesting to me. Also, it's quite hard going at times. It sounds quite heavy, and it sounds and a lot of the topics, I imagine, are quite heavy as well, although I don't necessarily look at that very often. But that said, that might be its achievement for a lot of people. It's a similar thing with Ghosteen and Skeleton Tree by Nick Cave. Part of the charm of those albums, part of what makes them work, is their super heavy atmosphere that is unrelenting, and this one sort of feels in a similar way. This YHWH Nailgun album is just crazy, just a entirely unique sound with screamed vocals, weird keyboards, and then like very crunchy grooves, I think, by the drums. Maybe there's also like bass in there as well, but it just has such a unique sound. The sound is more impressive than the actual compositions or anything like that, but it's really worth a listen. Very interesting stuff. Neelam by Ganavia seems like this is a singer-songwriter from India who has made no, I should probably look this up. I shouldn't just assume. Let's go Ganavia singer. Yeah, Indian and American singer. Okay, fine. And so her style is quite difficult to describe. It's very low key most of the time, and it has some connection to Carnatic music, but while also having a lot of singer-songwriter influences. So overall in that sort of folk pop crossover area, but with definitely some other stuff going on. I think it's enticing in its uniqueness there. Richard Dawson is always good. End of the Middle is much more low-key than the previous two albums, and that's funny to say because the Ruby Chord has some very, very sparse music on it, but End of the Middle takes that even further, really makes it really just, they've set up some mics in a room and got these people to record these songs. That's what it seems like on it. It's very low-key, very sparse, straightforward in the way that it can be, but then it was also Richard Dawson doing this music, and so any straightforwardness is not really straightforward. It's complex compositions all over this one. Okay, I wonder how much I should go more. I'll go 10 minutes more. Mamalaki had a really, really good album a couple of years ago, which was Pocket Fantasy. Hexkey is good. It is not as good. Some of the same points hit, I think, in Hexkey. Maybe more texturally adventurous, and seemingly from song to song it seems to change more. But there's the songs altogether are just not as good as on the previous album. But it's still good and still a really interesting band with a sort of jazzy edge of indie music, something like that. Caroline Rose, Year of the Slug. This was not released on most streaming services, and I only got hold of it because I was following her on Bandcamp, and she released it. She leaked it on there. It's worth a listen. It's sparse, basically acoustic guitar and some vocals, not necessarily just one vocal. But those are the main things that are carrying it. It feels shoddily recorded to some degree, but that gives it this classic lo-fi quality of music that is sort of circulated in unusual places, like they're so big now. What are they called? Cleaners from Venus. Cleaners from Venus. I think they've been used in a film or something, and now they're much bigger than they ever were. But in the 80s, the Cleaners from Venus, which is really just this one guy, just recorded everything on tape and handed them out, and never had a recording contract, I believe. But word of mouth makes this underground artist who is making music antithetical to the mainstream. So, you know, in 2025, suddenly they are bigger than they've ever been. It's really, really interesting how things like that work. And that might be the same for this album. I think if more people had heard it, it would be a bigger news, but also it might take the luster off it if it was super popular as well as being off. You know, you just have issues. Whatever, not important. Kind of like what happened with Salt's 9 album. Don't know what's going on with Salt's, the sort of half unknown collective from London, SAULT. Their 9 album was removed from streaming after 90 days, I believe. Or maybe after 9, no, I think it must have been after 90 days. It's good, it's a really good album. Similar to this, there's that scarcity there. Helen Ganya, yeah, this is a cool album. We looked it up for the same video that Jim Geddy and Dose Swan were in that I did. She's half Thai, or she has Thai ancestry as well as British ancestry, so she has made this not therefore, but she has made this really cool mixture of those two things. I wouldn't necessarily say that's all it is. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. It changes between slightly more pop-centric things that I'm not very interested in, and then slightly more other musics style things which have cool textural elements, cool rhythmic elements. Yeah, it's a cool album. It's not one of my favourites this year, but it's definitely worth a look. The These New Puritans album I did cover, and it does have some really nice features. If you were to do a more in-depth musical analysis, you might well find some other great things in there. These New Puritans are very much musicians. But emotionally not massively connected to it. However, it does have a nice sort of bookending thing. The same things that occurred at the beginning happen at the end, and that's always fun on an album. I think it's better than Inside the Rose, but I didn't really like that anyway, so that's not high praise. It's good though. Imogen Thackeray, Weirdo, good. Strange album, weird album, one might say. Straightforward short songs in the main, quite a lot of them, and they're about simple things like, you know, I just love egg fried rice. At least that's how it seems on the surface. There might be some more to it, but they're in this fun place between R&B and jazz, and it feels very very, I don't know, it's not really the zeitgeist, but it feels like it's pulling the underground popularity of Snarky Puppy. Do I mean? Yeah, I do mean Snarky Puppy. And then making it slightly more comfortable. Quite different to her previous album as far as I can remember. But yeah, lukewarm on it, but I think there are some really cool things going on. I haven't listened to this K Tempest album more than the once I listened to it the first time. I think that I would therefore not like to comment on it, but I did enjoy a certain amount of it. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Similar with this Lyra Prem Rock album. This Prem Rock album similar, but I think the Prem Rock album is of a higher class than both of those, and it's really the only rap album that does a similar thing to the Billy Woods album, and that's not actually true. It's it feels similar in the approach to, say, Flow, but the ensemble, the production on it is very, very different. But it feels on that level, sort of artistically. But that said, I haven't listened to it enough, so I don't want to say any more than that. This Throwing Muses album, similarly, it's good though. Tir na nOg we've already talked about. Guyad Ibn Said, I really tried with, and I've decided it's not for me, but I think there's some really interesting things on it. There Will Be No Super Slave, I think, is great, with maybe one or two duds in the track list. This, I think, has some, again, really good stuff on it, and it has this strange narrative, or at least some acting going through the album, which I didn't quite get a grip of. But yeah, overall it just doesn't cohere in the way that I want it to. It's a shame. Catherine Joseph, it's nice, it's pretty straightforward texturally. Similarly, Jeffrey Lewis is pretty straightforward texturally, but very funny, really worth a go. This Eva Blanche album, Eva Blanche, I have covered in that same video as the others, just one track. It is unique. It is, I think, not massively well realized, but gosh, it's unlike anything else, and I really have to shout it out for that. The voice of Eva is really cool. She sings a lot in her higher sort of, head dominant kind of sound, going up into falsetto fairly regularly as well, and that in itself adds this strangely nameless, placeless value into the music. It really doesn't feel like it is a member of any strong camp, except maybe sort of the 90s more Chiba kind of dance music vibe goes from time to time on here, but that really is not a adequate encapsulation of what's going on there. This Black Country New album, Black Country New Road album, they continue to make interesting music, but I feel like the edges have been shorn off since their first full-length album, and I am a little bit disappointed in that. I think that there are some great things on Forever How Long, and there are definitely some really interesting musical things on Forever How Long, but that also, it's strangely or no, maybe not strangely, but it just feels less it feels less ambitious in other aspects. Still musically ambitious, but not, say, emotionally ambitious. Yeah, I don't know, I couldn't comment on the poetry in the album, but that also used to be quite an important thing. If you like the word darling on previous Black Country New Road albums. What do we got next? Dirty Projectors, only listened to this once, but it was good. Haven't listened to it again, should do. This Elizabeth A. Carver album is very interesting, experimental album. It's hard to sum up again, but there's a lot of very acoustic textures on the album and weird things in that. The voice at the heart of it is really not for everyone. Slightly grating and aggressive, but yeah, if you're into unusual music, this is a must. Elizabeth A. Carver, I believe, is playing keyboards for Shearling, who has come up again today, and that's an interesting case, but there aren't many keyboards on this as far as I can tell. Other strange acoustic sounds there are, definitely. Really interesting and difficult. The Honningbana album is good and aggressive and also quite tuneful. It's the most successful of its kind. It's slightly lighter in tone than the Maruja album. But yeah, if for the more aggressive side and the more sort of cheeky chappy side of the post-punk scene, this is the one, I would say. This Oklu album is great. I am not a fan of A.G. Cook, and I think hyperpop is not broadly not very interesting. And Charli XCX, from time to time, I am okay with, but then from time to time, I think is really boring. This Oklu album is produced, at least to some degree, by A.G. Cook, and it's got this softness to it. I read one review for some reason that said it was basically bereft of drums, and this isn't true. It does have quite a lot of drums in it, but they are all soft, and they never go to the extent that drums normally go to in this kind of music, or really in any kind of music. So it has a unique softness when it comes to how the drums fit with everything else, and there are some really nice textures which they're like dance music adjacent, but they don't feel quite all the way over into dance music, and there's sort of a Euro feel to it as well. But yeah, I would recommend you go and have a listen to that. Jacob Banks apparently did release Yonder as a full album, and I missed it, so I haven't listened to it as a full album. Jacob Banks is an amazing soulful singer, and Yonder Book 2 I think is the most cohesive bit of his music that I've listened to. I didn't like Yonder Book 3 very much. I think Yonder Book 1 was pretty decent, but Yonder Book 2 I think has some wonderful pieces of music on it, really show off everything he's got going. Yeah, this Divorce album, only listened to it once, but it was good, bit straightforward. This Chase Petra album, I've given a few times, and it's strange, but it is good. It feels, I mean, it's really rooted in an emo tradition, but then texturally it never seems to quite fit there. It's more lo-fi than you would expect, but the vocal performances are absolutely there. Yeah, it's quite an unusual one, and if you like those keywords, go for it. I'm not going to stop you there. But yeah, I mean, the first track, which is called something like Centrifugal Force, I think, that's really good, and there are some good things dotted around as well, but overall just not an album for me in the end. Common Holly, this is not a amazing follow-up to her previous album, which was ages ago, which was When I Say to You Black Lightning. Love that album. I think it's fantastic, and I'll shout it out again because not many people know it. When I Say to You Black Lightning, that's what the album is called. It's got a great aesthetic. It's fantastic. This one feels a little less cohesive. It's still got some good stuff on, but I haven't gone back to it since my first listen. I will at some point, but there we go. Okay, I'll do like 5 more. Pale White, fine. Again, good. I'm maybe damning that. It maybe deserves a bit more. Lonnie Holly continues to make unusual, unique music on Tonky. Is this as good as the previous one, which I've forgotten the name of again? Lonnie Holly. Yeah, it doesn't have as good an album cover either. Oh Me Oh My and Tonky, both worth a listen. I don't know about the other two, and I think Lonnie Holly has a long recording career before that, but both of those are great. Both are worth a listen. This Nell Smith album, Nell Smith tragically died unexpectedly. Can't remember why, and I wouldn't really want to rehash that kind of sensationalist gossip anyway, but her album is actually good. She's very young. She was very young when she died. I think she was 17, if I'm right. And this music is already very accomplished. I don't think that this is as good as it could have been. I also wouldn't expect it to be the pinnacle of the output that she would go on to do, but as she has died, this is all we are left with, and it is well worth a listen. It's not one of my favorites, but there's definitely some really good stuff on there. Swans are doing swans. Always continue to do what they are doing, basically in the same way. What could we say that would be specifically different between this one and the previous 5? That's kind of a difficult ask. They do have differences, but they are really joined together by this specifically like new Swans, arguably old Swans, relationship with long, drawn out, similar textures that go on for a long time. This Ada Rook album is powerful and aggressive and fun, and it says "I hate that stupid mouse" a lot, which could get on your nerves. Okay, yeah. I think that's about where I'm done. C. Duncan album, worth a listen to, but yeah, that's I'm done. There's loads more albums. Let me just check through, see if there's anything that I have in particular missed out. Oh yeah, this Young Fathers album, which is just a soundtrack to a film, and I haven't seen the film even, which is a shame. Oh yeah, and also we've got that Getting Killed album to talk about, but it's a really good soundtrack. It doesn't really feel like a soundtrack when you're listening to it, because there are songs, and it feels like really well organized. Lots of great stuff to have a look at there. Let's talk about this Geese album then. Super popular, definitely popular, and I've seen Geese. I was very excited. It came out with I want to say 2112, but it's not called that, is it? It's 2122, isn't it? 2122, which is a fantastic composition. It really plays with the sort of classic trope of a blues singer. Like, the music stops and then the blues singer says the thing, and then the music comes back in with ba da 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 or whatever. But it does that in such a cool, clever way. It's so enjoyable in that respect. So well worth a listen to their previous album for that. Getting this one, I don't know, it's just not worth playing with the sensors, is it? Getting Killed is great. I don't feel like it deserves all the praise that it gets, but it's a super fun hang. It feels like every track after every track just keeps the same comfortable, relaxed, but also really in the groove mood going. I think Cameron Winter's voice is, Marmite. It's good, but it is also over the top. Sometimes he sounds great, and I just wish that he had more control over that, maybe. I don't know. Either way, it probably plays into it feeling comfortable that he is so variable. It's good. And the last track I really like, and I really like the chord progression on it specifically. I think okay, let's talk about this Lola Young album. I hated the album artwork, and I saw it up in London, and I really found it inappropriate. So old, but listening to the album, it's actually surprisingly great. It's in a strange place adjacent to sort of mainstream pop. It doesn't feel like mainstream pop, but it has a lot of the same touchstones. But then I guess the production, the songs, they take it further and they make it more exciting. And I wouldn't say the performances are amazing, but I think that overall the songs really work well, and it's a really enjoyable album. Strange that I find myself saying that, but it is. This Hannah Francis album is really cool. I don't connect with it very strongly in an emotional manner, but I think it has a lot of good musical things going on. All right, we'll leave it there. Oh, and yeah, the Armand Hammer and the Alchemist album, Mercy, is great. Another one to put in that list with the other Billy Woods album. It's doing a different thing though. It's definitely having more fun with the production, and I think some of the things it's doing with the production are really things I haven't heard on any other album, so it might be worth going into at some point. But there is so much music to go into. I can't just do all of it. It's a shame, but there we are. That's how it has to be. I can only do like 50 albums a year realistically, and even if I can get through those, which remains to be seen, we will try and do a bit more next year. Cool. That was actually a whole hour. I wasn't intending to do a whole hour, but that's basically the cream of the crop of this year, at least from my perspective. What albums do you like? Tell me what they are. Tell me if I'm wrong about what I like, and tell me about what's actually the officially right albums to choose for the best albums of the year. There are plenty that are on other people's lists that I don't like at all, and I want you to tell me that those are the ones that I should have liked. Please do. Also, have a lovely day, and I hope your life picks up.